This is Naimur Rahman, also known as Naimur Rahman Training Wala. Welcome to another episode of Talk with Maya. Today we talk to Maya about self forgiveness and self comparison.
Hey Naeem, how's it going?
I am good, Maya. How are you?
I'm all right. Just hanging out in the digital world. You know how it is. On your mind today? Anything in
Okay.
particular you want to chew on?
Yes,
Gotcha.
Maya.
So no specific. Ah,
We will
my
talk
bad.
about.
Sometimes right? Kind of wild, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like I could just ramble. Glad I didn't do that just now. So what were you gonna ask?
Okay, we will talk about self comparison and self forgiveness. During our talk, I will ask question, but you are not allowed to ask question in written. Okay?
Deal. Self comparison and self forgiveness sounds hefty. All right, lay it on me.
Okay. My first question is, what does self comparison mean?
Self comparison is basically measuring your worth, your achievements, your looks, your life against someone else's yardstick. It's pretty human, honestly, but the thing is, everyone edits their highlight reel. And even if it's not intentional, you're comparing your reality to someone else's presented reality, which is rarely a fair fight.
Okay. Why it often easier to forgive other than for to forgive ourselves?
That's a good one. I think it boils down to a couple things. First, we usually have the full story on people's motivations, or at least we're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. With ourselves, we tend to zoom in on our mistakes and beat ourselves up over the should haves. Also, forgiving someone else doesn't usually threaten our self image. Forgiving ourselves, that can feel like letting ourselves off the hook for being, well, imperfect,
Okay.
which is kind of messed up when you think about it. What's next?
Okay. How can someone recognize when they are being too hard on themselves?
It's a tricky one because it's sneaky. But a few things. Consistently dwelling on past mistakes, a really harsh monologue, like you never talk to a friend that way, setting impossibly high standards, and feeling like nothing you do is ever good enough are all telltale signs. Also, physically, things like fatigue, changes in appetite, or trouble sleeping be a signal you're running on fumes from self criticism. Does any of that ring a bell?
Okay. What are some
Good.
common signs of negative self talk?
Oh, there's a whole vocabulary of it. Things like I always or I never are huge red flags. Total generalizations. Also, using words like should, must, or have to creates unnecessary pressure. Labeling yourself, I'm a failure, I'm so stupid, is pretty brutal. And minimizing your accomplishments or focusing only on the negative, yep, that's the inner critic at work. It's all about those thought patterns turning toxic.
Okay. How can self comparison help improve emotional well being?
This is kind of counterintuitive, right? Because we just talked about how much self compare sucks, but it's not inherently bad. It can be helpful if you shift your focus. Instead of comparing to inferior, try comparing to inspire yourself. Like, okay, that person achieved X and it took hard work and dedication. Maybe I can set a similar goal. Or you can learn from others' successes without diminishing your own path. The key is to use it as data, not as a judgment. But honestly, it's a tightrope walk. It's easy to slip back into the negative spiral.
Okay. What steps can someone take to start forgiving themselves for past mistakes?
All right, this is where the real work begins. First, acknowledge what happened without minimizing it or making excuse. Then, identify the lesson in it. What did you learn? Next, genuinely accept responsibility, but separate the action from your worth as a person. It's not somebody you made a mistake. You are not a mistake. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you talk to a friend who was going through the same thing. And finally, let it go. Seriously, holding on to guilt just keeps you stuck. It's a process, though, not a one-time fix.
Okay. Why do we sometimes hold on to guilt even after learning from the experience?
That's a good question. I think it's partly about control. Holding on to guilt can feel like you're for your mistake, like you're somehow making amends. It's a way to punish yourself and maintain a sense of justice, even if it's self-inflicted. Also, sometimes we feel like letting go of guilt means letting go of the lesson, or that we repeat the mistake, but that's not true. The lesson is learned, the guilt is just extra baggage. It's surprisingly relinquish control, even when that control is making us full.
Okay. How can mindfulness help in becoming kinder towards ourselves?
Mindfulness is huge for this. It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So, when that critical voice starts up, mindfulness helps you recognize it as just a thought, a fact. You can observe the feeling of guilt or shame without getting swept away by it. It creates some space between you and your thoughts, which lets you respond with compassion instead of reaction. Basically, it trains you to be a more objective observer of your own inner experience.
Okay. What role does acceptance play in the process of self forgiveness?
Whoa, self-bagginess, I like that. Just good word for it. Acceptance is massive. It's not about condoning your actions, but about acknowledging reality. Like, okay, I messed up. It happened. I can't change the past. Resisting reality just creates more suffering. Acceptance allows you to stop fighting with yourself and start moving forward. It's where self-compassion really takes root. You can't be kind to yourself about something you still refuse to accept.
Okay. How can someone rebuild trust in themselves after making a mistake?
Rebuilding trust, slow, deliberate work. Start small. Set achievable goals and actually follow through on them. It's about creating a track record of reliability, even in tiny ways. Keep your promise to yourself, even the little ones. Just self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you'd talk to someone you care about. And forgive yourself for setbacks. Slip-ups will happen. View them as learning opportunities, not evidence of inherent unworthiness. Basically about building a new pattern of behavior and a new internal narrative. It takes time, but it's totally possible.
Okay. What practical exercise can strengthen self comparison?
Okay, I got one. It's called self compassion break. When you're feeling really down on yourself, take a moment to pause. Put your hand over your heart. It's a physical gesture of comfort. Then silently say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. Acknowledge the pain without judgment. Next, say, suffering is a part of life. Remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes and experiences hardship. Finally, say, may I be kind to myself. Just those three phrases, repeated a few times, can shift your perspective. It sounds simple, but it can be surprisingly powerful.
Okay. Maya, give me today's talk summary.
All right, Naeem. Here's gist of today's talk. We dove into self comparison and self forgiveness, looking at what drives those internal dynamics. We talked about how self comparison isn't always bad, but how easily it can go south. We broke down why it's often harder to forgive ourselves than others, identifying signs of negative self talk and ways to recognize when you're being too hard on yourself. We then explored practical steps for self forgiveness, the role of acceptance, and how mindfulness can help you cultivate self compassion. Lastly, we touched on rebuild self trust and a specific exercise, the self compassion break, to strengthen it. Sound about right?
Okay, Maya, thank you and goodbye.